Good afternoon, everyone. As Laurie said, my name is Colleen Boland, and I have the honor of being the chairperson of HwH. I also have the privilege of knowing Beverly for over 35 years. I'm humbled to stand before you today to pay tribute to Beverly and the remarkable life that was hers. I understand that so many of you out here have your own stories that you'd like to share. So I'm honored to have this coveted spot. Thank you, Kyla. Thank you to the Housewood board members who are all here today for entrusting me with this very special moment. Kyla, baby, on behalf of the board, I extend our deepest condolences to you, and to you, Hannah, Ava, Kyle, Matt, and to you, Georgie and Sydney, and all the rest of the family who couldn't be here today. To the children and staff and Paul, and lastly to Mike and Sharon Jane, and to all of you who are here today to mourn the loss of Beverly. Kyla and the rest of the team, the caregiving team, you couldn't have done more, you couldn't have done a better job. It was extraordinary to watch. I first met Beverly and her darling, and yes, I'm going to say very precocious young daughter, Kyla, back in 1980, when she worked for a time in my hometown of Corning, New York. We have some Corning nights here today. We lived together on and off for a short time in a large house with a hard partying, talented gaggle of misfits. At first meeting, I was struck by Beverly's presence. Exotic, kind, fiery, and oh my Lord, that laugh of hers. We parted ways when I left Corning to rejoin the military, but we stayed in touch for over the next 25 years. We saw each other in the village, and she and Kyla visited me in Hawaii when I was stationed there. And during that visit, I believe I saw something very rare, Beverly Bronson relaxing. As sometimes happens with friends who drifted apart for a few years, I assumed that Beverly was still here, spreading her magic through the East Village and throughout the city. I had found my way to Cornell University, where I worked for a world expert in global hunger and poverty eradication. I often sat at my desk to eat lunch and listen to NPR's World View out of Chicago. In 2006, I heard World View's announcer say, "Now I'd like to introduce Beverly Bronson." It was open to home for abandoned children, with skills training center for destitute women, and an outreach program for the needy in Kathmandu, Nepal. Welcome, Beverly. And then I heard her voice, so distinctive, that accent so endearing. She said graciously, as always, as Beverly would do, "Thank you for having me." And then I was absolutely gobsmacked to hear her compelling story. I emailed her straight away to say, "Please let me know if I can help." Well, now. I dare say, most of you folks know all too well that if you made a promise to help Beverly Bronson, you were damn straight, be very prepared to do so. Within 2 months' time, I had quit my job through a fundraiser and headed to Nepal, where I stayed for the That's how she did. My life changed. Those kids, those programs. Unless you've been to House with Heart, one simply cannot imagine all that Beverly built to help some of the world's most disenfranchised people. For those of you here who haven't heard House with Heart's origin story, here's how Beverly described it in a video. Quote, "They, Babu and Krishna, aged 2 and 5, were sitting in front of their hut, and the tailor across the street from them said, 'Their mother ran off 3 days ago. You should take them. No one else will.'" Beverly continued with a humble laugh and said, "And so I did." And yes, so she did. You heard earlier about her friend Noah, who was her first angel funder. He bought her a 3-story building that was once a carpet factory. Beverly oversaw its renovation down to the smallest detail and turned it into what is now a lovely and loving home for 28 children, a home that now houses our second generation of children. Let there be no mistake. House with Heart was all Beverly. Loving, determined, tireless, irascible at times, especially when it came to protecting the children. To add further perspective on this remarkable story, I think it's worth noting the context under which Beverly undertook her work. She founded House with Heart in 2001. But from 1996 to 2006, Nepal was embroiled in a bloody political conflict as the Maoist insurgency movement fought ruthlessly to strip Nepal from its democratic rule to one controlled by the Communist Maoist Party. It was a time when a guerrilla war was raging throughout the land, including in Kathmandu Valley, where House with Heart was opening its doors, taking in its first abandoned children. Yes, Beverly was fearless and cunning when she needed to be. And as many of you know, she was theatrical. Kyla, I know you worried constantly about your mom when she was in Nepal. So you might want to tune out when I tell this story. But it's just another story similar to the one from Sharon Jane, so there's a theme here. You all figure out what that is after it's over. But so Beverly told me when I was being vetted down here in New York City for 3 days, before she would allow me to go over and be with her children. One day, she said, Maoist rebels came to the House with Heart's door looking to extort money from me. They promised protection of the house in return. And with a performance worthy of a Tony Award. And in true British fashion, Beverly struck a demure pose and said, "Oh dear, I'm so very sorry, but I have no money to offer you. But please, come in. Join me for a cup of tea." Knowing Beverly as you do, I'm sure you know how this story ended. The rebels didn't get a rupee out of her, and they didn't come in for tea. They left, and they sure as hell never came back. So from Maoist extortionists, and apparently New York City extortionists, to the hardships of calamitous earthquakes in 2015, Beverly persevered with a will that was a wonder to watch, and for me, exhausting to try to keep up with. In 2015, she shepherded her many children through a potentially traumatic post-earthquake reality, where for a full year they all lived sandwiched together in tents, then a tin hut, and finally in a sewing room until the main house was fully repaired and retrofitted to endure any future earthquakes. Generous donors, many of you whom are here today, made that recovery possible. Since May, we have received condolences of love, expressions of love, condolences, and donations from all over the country and the world, Brazil, Australia, Europe, Hong Kong. It's remarkable, really. Georgia reminded me the other day that Beverly didn't want a big fuss made over her death. What she did want was for us to use this opportunity to advocate for her kids and for life's work. I can hear her voice right now as I speak. She speaks to me a lot. Will not shut up. Ask for help, Colleen, she's saying. Tell them what we need. I'm on it, Beth. I'm on it. In order to ensure a sustainable future for House with Heart, we need a steady stream of donors. We need them now, we will need them in the years to come. Big donors, small donors, all are appreciated and all help. It's going to take an army to replace the force of one that was Beverly. We are fortunate now to have a small cadre of loyal volunteers and longtime supporters. And new ones have stepped up since Beverly's diagnosis. All are dedicated to continuing the vital and compassionate work with House with Heart. The breadth and depth of Beverly's reach has not diminished. She is clearly still on the job. I'm delighted to share some breaking news with you today. Another angel funder has just appeared. This one from down under in Australia. Her name is Ann Portis, and one day ago she wired $50,000 to us. it's important to know that this $50,000 was a donation that came from an inheritance that she received from her longtime partner who had recently passed, Harry Bonanno. This extraordinary gift from Anne, through Harry, will allow us to complete our new building that has been under construction, and one that represents Beverly's last vision. And just like Beverly, it's an ambitious one. With their generosity, we will finish up and open the doors to this multi-purpose building. It will house a medical clinic, and it will allow us to resume and grow our learning center programs. A handful of our older girls will move into the new building, providing a transition opportunity for them as they enter into early adulthood. And it will allow us to take in even more children, just as Beverly wanted. We are all very excited to move forward to help more children, help more people, do more, always do more. That is what Beverly taught us, always do more. Armed with the power of her personal narrative, Beverly traveled the globe to seek support and funding for her children in Nepal. She was so good at that. We're going to miss that. Now I hear her again. She's saying, thank everyone for their support over the years coming. Tell them I couldn't have done it without them. And so on behalf of Beverly, I say thank you from her. One last time. Thank you. Oh, incoming. She's also saying keep it up. She's right, keep it up. As I've said, we'll be taking more children. We'll be expanding our outreach. Of necessity, we will continue to rely on the generosity that Beverly was so uniquely talented and inspiring. Lori, I'm almost done. In closing, throughout the years, I wrote a number of speeches for Beverly. As capable and confident as she was, and even with her years of experience in the theater, when it came to public speaking, Beverly was full of self-doubt. And so my advice to her was simple and really relied on a basic formula. Every presentation has a beginning, a body, and an end. But in preparing for today, I realized that not every situation fits neatly into that equation. I now know sometimes there is no end. That is certainly the case when it comes to Beverly Bronson. Yes, sadly we must begin to navigate a world without her. But with your help, her work through House with Heart is endless, with new beginnings at every turn. And the stories we share about Beverly's remarkable and eclectic life are endless. Our hearts are broken for sure. But how lucky are we to have had her for as long as we did. Beverly, thank you for showing us the way. For showing us how to open our hearts for the benefit of the greater good. You did that, Beverly. You did that for us all. 71 years ago today, an angel appeared. She did her work well. Rest, my friend, rest. Thank you.